welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith. We're going to continue our Kickstarter preview of Masters of the Night, exactly where we left off in part number 1, which is where we took the first player token and moved it over to Mila. She'll be starting us off, but first we need to resolve the day district effects. So first we'll take a look at the railway station here. We have one agent there, and it says if there's more agents than minions in this district, select a single die with the highest value and decrease it by 2. Well, that's super unfortunate because my highest die is a 6. That 6 is now going to turn into a 4. So now in our dice pool, we have a 4, 3, a 2, and a 1. Not very good. Next up, we have the Asylum. In the Asylum, we have one of our minions there. So because of this, we're able to expose and move one agent from any district to the Asylum. Well, I can tell you right now, I want to thin that herd where there's 2 agents hidden at the cathedral. So let's go ahead and pull one of the agents from the cathedral and expose that individual. Put them in the Asylum. Next, we have the Museum. This is the one I'm going to choose to activate. Remember, with those day effects, you don't have to go in an order left to right as I'm doing now. If any of them make sense to do before another one, make sure you do those strategically because there could be a nice benefit. Right here with the Museum, we have at the start of the day more minions and agents. Then we get to draw a relic card. We get to draw this relic card regardless of already having relic cards for both of our characters and the fact we can only have one each. I just draw it, and that main first player token is going to tell me who gets to decide which vampire gets it. When you're playing solo, I can choose. So basically, I can swap out a relic. Now, as you know, we have the cathedral with an agent inside. And as you can see right here in the day and night phase, we know from the prior video that we can't use any relics or abilities because there's agents in this cathedral area. We're going to need to get rid of that last one there in order to stop that from happening. We still draw the card. So let's go ahead and draw a card from the relic deck and see what we get. We got Ancient Blade. Now that looks like a pretty awesome weapon. Ancient Blade says increase the value of all dice you use in combat by 1. That is a perfect relic to have right now with the terrible dice we have in the reserve pool to use for combat. So I could choose to discard this and not use it, but I honestly kind of want to use it. And the cape, even though it is really useful to be able to spend 1 blood token and be able to take off anywhere in the districts and land, it allows you to move around the board really quickly. That is useful, but you are spending blood tokens like crazy to do so. Whereas with this Ancient Blade, it's just an automatic benefit by always increasing it by 1. Could really help us out when we're trying to kill our way up the kill count track to a total of 9. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take the Ancient Blade and place it right here on this vampire. He is now going to be holding that. You can see we were 1 away on the kill count to be able to actually hold both the cape and the blade, unfortunately. As I already mentioned earlier, we do have an agent that is sitting on the cathedral, so because of this, I cannot use abilities and relics. Next, we need to draw an event card, and this is going to be the first time we're drawing a stage 2 event card during the entire playthrough thus far, so let's see what it has in store for us. So we have Rigor Mortis, and this is going to be interesting because the red X currently sits right on top of the railway station where unfortunately Mila, who's actually resolving this event, is currently sitting. And we know when that happens, that's going to affect the Veil tracker, which we won't update until the end of this event card being resolved, but still, it's not a good thing. So we will be placing 1 new agent at the railway. It appears she's got some company over here. Next, we have a choice between the police department for a blue X or the cathedral for a blue X. And again, because we're on that first half of the Veil tracker, we're only placing 1 down. So I'm thinking because we actually did a pretty good job earlier on of moving an agent from the cathedral up to the Asylum, and I'll probably keep working on the cathedral until there's no more agents there so we can actually use our abilities and relics. I'll probably place the hidden or unrevealed agent in the police department. The bottom half of the event card here has Rigor Mortis. It says, place this card on any vampire's sheet. Whenever this vampire uses dice, decrease its value by 1. Well, that's ironic because I literally just got a relic, Ancient Blade, that increases combat by 1 on the die when used with a particular vampire. Imre is currently got that, and now I'm kind of contemplating putting this rigor mortis on him, because then it would essentially nullify that bonus he has, and it wouldn't hurt Mila as much as it would otherwise. But there is ways to get rid of this. It says down below here, when this vampire uses the last die from the pool, which unfortunately we haven't used any dice from the current pool, so that'll be a little bit, then we can go ahead and discard this card and increase our veil tracker by 1. So increasing the veil tracker is a good thing, but we're going to suffer some consequences to get there. So I'm going to go ahead and choose Imre in order to take rigor mortis. He's probably not so happy about that card because it nullifies his ancient blade, but we have really bad dice overall, and honestly, nothing's really going to stop that or change that until we deplete our pool currently, or we take over the railway station and get some of our minions there. But we'll have to work on that strategy as we go. Speaking of the railway station, we've now finished and resolved the event card, and that is where we placed an agent during the resolving of the event card, and there was an actual non-drained vampire there, Mila. So because of that, the veil tracker is going to move down to 4, unfortunately. Again, that will drop down whether an agent is placed in a space with a non-drained vampire or a minion. Now, this is the time frame where agents would hunt vampires during the day phase if there's 3 or more in one space and there's a vampire present as well that's not drained. So currently that doesn't exist. So thankfully we can move past that, but it's looking like the agents are starting to pool their resources at the police department. So the first thing Mila's going to do on her turn is she's going to hunt +1, which will give her 1 blood token in addition. And in order to stop these individuals from hitting our dice in the day phase, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use her temptation, which is going to use both of her blood tokens. She will become drained, and that is going to hit us negatively later on the veil tracker when she comes back and ends her turn. But thankfully I'm doing this at the end of her turn anyway strategically. So I'm going to spend the 2 blood tokens that I have accumulated for her right now to do her temptation, which is replace 1 exposed agent in the district with a minion. This one's exposed. I'm going to replace it with a regular minion. I'm doing this to kind of basically make that whole situation moot. It's going to equal out so that there will be no gain for the agents. There'll be no gain for us, but at least it stops the agents from constantly hitting our dice. So now, because I've done this, we now have our first drained vampire. So the first time you go ahead and you either use an ability or after combat or as a result of some other effect, the vampire no longer has any blood tokens left, they are considered drained. You're going to flip the token over to the drained side, so you can see it like this. If Mila happened to have any action points available left over, she would lose them, but she doesn't because I wisely spent them before becoming drained. And when an event card adds an agent now into a district with only a drained vampire like this, only a drained vampire, then it wouldn't decrease the veil. But in this situation, if an agent was actually added into here, because there's a minion, then it would decrease the veil. Because remember, decreasing the veil tracker can happen whether there's an actual undrained vampire or a minion, and currently we have the minion criteria satisfied, so it isn't a perfect thing there in terms of stopping that from happening. So hopefully on the next event card we don't see that. The reason I did this mainly, as I talked about earlier, was I just want to stop the dice from decreasing because it's getting us into a sticky situation for combat. If a drained vampire gains a blood token from any effect, they're no longer drained, and you just flip the token back over. When it is a drained vampire's turn to act during the night phase, they gain 1 blood token. However, the vampire's resurrection is not going to be unnoticed, and at this point you would then decrease the veil tracker by 1, and the vampire can then act normally in the next round of action. So in this particular case, Mila is drained. We flipped her token over, and unless a game element gives her a blood token back and revives her, she's still going to be drained until the next night phase, which essentially is in the next round. Then she will automatically gain back 1 blood token, but at that point we have to go ahead and decrease the veil tracker by 1. Imre is up next, and he wants to use these dice in a different way than we've been using them so far for attacks. He wants to use them to give us some type of benefit even though they're low. And the really cool thing, and a place and district we haven't gone to yet, is called City Park. And Imre right now is quite happy that the asylum is balanced, So I can leave this state right now without any worry of something triggering a negative effect. So this might be the time to go. If I do go ahead and move, I can move 2 spaces to City Park, and I'll zoom in and show you why. Now we haven't visited City Park yet, but you can see in the night phase when I'm here, I can spend 1 AP and use a single die for the effect matching its value. For a 1 or a 2 on the die from the reserve pool, of which we have 2 of those, we could increase the veil tracker by 1. That's huge. That could really get us back up, seeing as we're down to 4. We also have 3 and 4 from the dice pool use could increase our kill count by 1. Not bad at all. Again, it's not going to help us actually getting rid of agents off the board, because remember, if the agents populate the board too much and we don't have any more tokens left to put on, the veil tracker starts going down because of that. So we don't want to just come here and just kind of grind our way up on the kill counts, because we will probably lose just from not dealing with the agents involved. And if we have 5s and 6s, which we don't right now, your character can move to any district. So that's a really nice way to just kind of teleport now that he's lost his cape. So I think for him, I'm going to actually have him move to City Park with the goal of raising back up our veil tracker. Now it's also worth mentioning the radio station. I could just stay here and spend 1 action point to increase the veil tracker by 1 as well. So I can do this anytime without needing to use the dice. But remember, we're trying to burn through these really low value dice on purpose, because remember, Imre has rigor mortis attached to him, which is only going to go away if he actually goes ahead and burns through the dice. So I can strategically use this, hopefully, to get rid of that so he can take full advantage of his ancient blade. So Imre is going to be starting it off with the first player marker, and there's only 1 day effect that's still in play, and guess what? I made a mistake and I've caught myself. So I'm going to go ahead and change up what I did with Mila last turn, where she used her special ability when she shouldn't have. I'm going to change it up so that she interacts in a different way. This is going to obviously change what I did, but the good news is now you've seen what happens when a vampire becomes drained. What I change, or what I choose to do with Mila instead, by reversing what I did, may actually result in her not being drained. But as you can see, because there's agents here in the night and day phase, I'm not allowed to go ahead and use any of my special abilities, which includes temptation from Mila, to go ahead and change out an exposed agent into a minion. So to actually correct and redo Mila's turn to ensure that we don't actually cheat and use our special ability when we're not allowed to, I'm going to go ahead and flip her back up. She's back alive. We have 1 blood token on her. We're really starting her off as if she has 2 full actions like she did in the prior round. But remember, we use the special ability to bring this minion in, and it used to be an exposed agent. So now everything's back to the way it was when her turn originally started. She is a fully fledged vampire. She has 1 blood token left. She's not drained, and there's an exposed and a hidden agent in this area. So what I'm going to do, knowing that I want to take at least 1 of these agents out because I want to bump her kill track up, I'm going to go ahead and hunt. And hunting is going to allow me to add 1 blood token. We actually did this already, but I want to show you exactly the 2 actions I'm choosing to do while redoing this turn for her, or her 2 actions. So that's the first one. The second one is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to attack this exposed agent. Now you might be thinking, hey, there's 2 agents in the same district. You have to fight both of them. Only the exposed agents are part of the fight. The hidden ones are not part of the fight. Only if I exposed this hidden agent would they all come after me, or both of them be involved. So in this case, it's just a one-on-one right here. So the other thing that's really cool about combat that will come into play later on is the first step of combat, which hasn't happened yet, at least I haven't wanted to use it yet, is there's never been a time where there's been a minion in my space when I've attacked and I've wanted to do this, but you can, and it's a really cool strategic option. If there's a minion in the same space with your vampire and your, a particular agent you're trying to take out, you can choose to actually get rid of the minion and the agent in order to actually have a combat. So that's another way of kind of dealing with combat. Instead of actually using dice, you can just, firstly decide whether you wanted to burn a minion to get rid of an agent. And there's a strategy in doing that, because remember, the more minions you have on the board, the more chances when the event card comes up that you could potentially have the veil tracker move down afterwards. So there are some reasonings behind getting rid of minions if you got too many of them if you got too many of them on the board. Plus, you're kind of thinning the agent herd as well. So anyway, we want to go ahead and we want to attack this agent right here. There's no minions we can discard to get rid of him quickly, so we're going to have to use some dice. We're fighting in the nighttime. We can choose any of the dice from the pool. So I might as well choose the highest one, or maybe in this case, it makes more sense to go ahead and choose, well, you know, I might go ahead and choose 4, because I don't think, let me think about this. Yeah, 4 sounds good. We'll go with the highest die. So 4 is going to allow me to go ahead and kill that agent, but I will take 1 hit back to Mila myself. So I'll take 1 token away from her. She's still alive, not drained. This agent, only the exposed one, has been removed, which is great, and her kill track is going to go up by 1. So she's slowly moving up the track here. She's now at 3, hoping to get to 4 soon so she can get all those blood tokens back. And with that, we've gone all the way around and corrected Mila's last turn from the previous round without affecting gameplay, which is nice. Plus, you got to actually see what happens with a drained vampire in terms of how that can change the game state of the board. Now, we didn't actually get to see the drained vampire coming back when a blood token's put back on her during the night phase, and then the actual veil tracker taking a hit for it. That's actually kind of a plus, that we did something a little different and it worked out for us too. So we still have one more thing to do for the day effects of this new round, and that's going to be as a result of the fact we couldn't use that special ability, and it's wonderfully the railway station. That's right, there's still 1 agent left there, so the day effect is going to trigger, which will take our highest die and drop it from a 3 down to a 1, which is really unfortunate. So this die here will be ticking down to a 1. So now in our reserve we have 2 1s and a 2. But just before we go to the event card, we don't want to forget about the fact we have one of our minions at the museum, which allows us to grab a relic. So let's definitely go ahead and do that and see if we get something nice. Ooh, the fleeting mirror. This one says spend 1 AP to swap districts with another vampire. Well, that's quite interesting. That would be really, really handy for certain situations, but to be totally honest, I like the Ancient Blade, and the Crystal Ball at some point is going to be really useful for controlling where agents go, so I think I'm going to let that one pass, even though I'd love to keep it. So we're going to go ahead and discard this one, and now we're going to move to our event. Alright, time to see what the event deck has in store for us. Curse of our Clan, that certainly doesn't sound good. So in the bottom right hand corner is a red X, so we have to put an agent there. That's City Hall for us. There's already 1 agent there. Both of them now are in hiding, but there's no minions and there's no non-drained vampires, so our veil tracker will not be being hit for that red placement, which is nice. The other ones are 2 blue. One's at the Asylum way at the top, and in the bottom left hand corner we got the museum. So the question is, do I want to drop it at the Asylum or at the museum? To be totally honest, I probably want to drop it at the museum. We've gone through a couple relics now and I haven't been able to actually keep any, even though Emery is really, really close to getting that next kill to be able to keep one. He's now at City Park and he's got kind of other objectives with the Veil Tracker, so I think it's a good time to actually place one of the agents at the museum. My other reasoning behind this is I can't get away from the fact that no matter whether I put it at the museum or at the Asylum, I have a minion there, so I'm going to be taking a hit on the Veil Tracker, unfortunately, at least one. So there we go for the museum. And then the last part of this event card says, place this card on the leading vampire's sheet. This is unfortunate because it's Imre and he's already got rigor mortis. How much worse can it get for him? This card must be passed along with the leading vampire token. Okay, so that'll be easier to track. I'll just have to put that underneath the first player token. When you get this card, lose. Oh, that's not good at all. That's gonna force him to go into a state of being drained the second he gains it. And this is when any vampire becomes incapacitated, discard this card and increase the veil by 1. So what I'm going to do to remember this, I'm going to place this rigor mortis one down here, and for the first player marker, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to place this on top of the curse of our clan, so I remember to pass it along with the first player marker. Now what's really good about the timing of this one is as soon as I give this to Imre right now, this blood token he has goes away, which you know what happens at this point is we're going to flip over his token on the City Park district. Now technically as of right now, we are not in the night phase, so he hasn't lost any of his actions as of yet because we haven't actually hit that phase. We're still dealing with the events of the day phase. So the other side of this that's really nice is he's basically incapacitated as of right now. So he's been drained. And so because of that, this card basically gets discarded immediately. and then we actually increase the veil tracker up by 1. So it actually is really meant to be more of a curse when you have 4 blood tokens, 3 or maybe 2, so it slowly is kind of whittling away at what you can do, kind of being a nuisance because you're cursed, until the point you become incapacitated. But this was perfect timing because I was already on the verge of death anyway. So as you can see, Imre over here, the city park, has been flipped over to his drained side, and this actually right now is going to trigger because we discarded the card because he became incapacitated or drained, and it's actually going to go up to 5. So that was actually kind of a nice way to get that back. But just as fast as we got that one back on the tracker, the event card has been resolved, and you remember we put an agent at the museum. So because of that, the veil tracker is going to drop right back to where it was. So really all it did was just keep us from actually ticking into the second half or second section of the veil tracker, which is quite nice because that would have escalated things for the next round. So being that there are no agents of grouped of 3 with no vampires in the same district, we skip past them having a fight against us in the day phase. We still haven't seen that happen just yet. But the great thing is we're starting things off with Imre, who just became drained, but because he is drained and is going into the night phase, he now gains 1 blood token back, which means he is now not drained any longer, and he flips back over in City Park for his token, and he's able to go ahead and spend his 2 actions and continue the night phase, or I should say begin the night phase. So Imre is going to go ahead and use 2 of the dice from the reserve pool at 1 each to go ahead and up the veil tracker by 1, which is going to get us all the way back up to 6. He's doing this to not only help us with the veil tracker not going down to the end where the vampires get hunted and destroyed and we lose the game, but also to get rid of his own rigor mortis. So an increase of 2 to the veil tracker will bring us from 4 to 6. We've come right to the brink of moving over to the second section, but thankfully we've kept away from it. Mila's up next to end out the night phase, but the thing is she only has 1 blood token. We only have a 2 die in the reserve pool, which is really low, and if I use that for combat, it literally just hits me for a blood wound, which is not good because that would drain me. Plus on top of it, the agent would stay, which doesn't help me either. So I might as well try to be productive, get myself into a spot where I could actually be useful for a bit. The nightclub down below seems interesting because if I get down there, the next turn I can spend 2 AP to regain all of my blood tokens up to my maximum and increase my kill count by 1, which could be huge because that would get me up to the next level of the wild hunt for future use. Could be really useful, so I'll do that. I'm going to go ahead and move 1 space. Well, actually, while I'm here at the railway station, it doesn't hurt to potentially expose this agent so I can attack this agent later on more easily. And then for now, I'll bring her down here. Now you can see there's strategy there, because do you want to expose an agent? Because what if the event card in the future drops another one here? And then the more exposed agents that are there over time, the more you're gonna have to deal with if you make an attack in the nighttime. But it's a risk I'm willing to take. I'm still gonna move the nightclub anyway. We'll see how this pans out. The first player marker is going to move over to Mila for the day phase. For daytime effects, we have the railway station. It's going to hit our die, the only one we have left, which is going to decrease it by 2. It's at 2, so it can only go to a minimum of 1 at the worst. So now it literally is the worst die we've ever had. There aren't any other day or night effects that we're going to have to worry about except for the cathedral, which we still need to get down here at some point, take this thing out so we can actually use our relics and abilities again, which I really, really want to do at some point. So that might be something she could do in the future. We'll see. Maybe Imre can get down there and do it with his ancient blade. Would be pretty epic. So either way, that's definitely a focal point here. But we're doing a decent job at getting rid of agents, but they're starting to kind of pile up around us here. So we're going to have to try to kick it up a notch in the coming rounds as time runs out on us. So we're not going to gain any benefit from the museum. There's nothing at City Hall. The police department, there's nothing for us, and the asylum is a wash because we have equal amounts. So that's going to do it. Now we're going to the event deck. The event this time is called Risky Treatment. We have a red X in the asylum. Sadly, I have a minion there, so by placing an agent, which I have to, in that asylum, we now are going to have to drop the Veil Tracker by 1 at the end of this card. We have 2 other X's, one at the nightclub, which ironically is exactly where Mila currently is, and the cathedral again. really, I'm gonna have to drop this on the nightclub so I can just deal with this individual while he's there. The other thing we gotta make note of is the fact I'm down to the last 2 agents, I believe, to place out after this one goes on the board, which means once we can't start placing these agents out there, then they're gonna start hitting the Veil tracker really, really quickly. So as you can see, things are ramping up. The nightclub has the extra agent now, where ironically also Mila is, so another Veil tracker hit for that one on top of the one I just talked about with the Asylum. So we'll be dropping 2 down the track as of now, but we still have to resolve the rest of this risky treatment event card. Well, this is really, really bad because we have another agent that we have to add into the Asylum along with this card. Another one. That's going to be 3 in there. So again, that's going to have us hitting the Veil tracker, which is going to drop us from a 6 down to a 3 currently. Like, that was a huge hit for us. Continuing on, it says at the end of each night phase, discard 1 minion from the Asylum. Then, if there are more minions than agents in the Asylum, discard this card and increase the... Oh my, that is going to be a very, very tough one to do. So these are the type of event cards that can come into play and actually stay in play. So like I said, at the end of each night phase, once our characters or vampires have gone, then we're going to be discarding individuals or minions, I should say, from the Asylum, which I only have 1 anyway. But then I need to have more minions there than there are agents in order to get rid of this card. And right now, that's not looking like it's going to happen real soon. I really need Mila to get in there and be able to use her really cool temptation ability to convert these agents to minions to help me. But in order to do that, I need to get rid of the agent at the cathedral. So I've got lots to work on. And because we put 3 agents into play in 3 different locations with either non-drain vampires or minions, we are knocking this thing down from 6 to 3, which pushes us into the second half and closer to vampires being hunted down and destroyed, which is not good. Now we're going to be going ahead in future turns. If I don't get this thing bumped back up during my current night phase coming up, if I don't get bumped back, we're going to actually have 2 going onto one of the blue X's that we choose in the future, which is really going to cause some problems, especially now that we only have 1 agent left in the reserve pool to place on the board before we run out of them. So Mila's going to stick with her plan. She's going to spend 2 action points to regain all of her blood tokens up to her maximum. So she's going to get all of her blood tokens back, which gives her a total of 4 on her board, which will be very, very handy to be able to use her abilities in the future. And it says we can increase her kill count by 1. Now, I would have much preferred to actually remove an agent off the board versus just getting a free kill count. But my plan here is, again, to get her to the point where she can actually be useful in her major abilities, temptation being the key one. All right, now, so what we're going to do with Imre as we move to his turn is he's going to spend his 1 AP to use the very last die he has, which thankfully with the Rigor Mortis card here says when this vampire uses the last die from the pool, discard this card and increase it by 1. So not only are we spending this for an AP here at the city park to increase the Veil tracker by 1, we're also, by discarding and removing Rigor Mortis, gaining 1 as well. So we'll be jumping from 3 back up to 5. So that gives us a little bit of a buffer and keeps us out of that second half, which is the nasty half of the Veil tracker. Even more importantly, now we get to go ahead and roll the dice to create a new dice reserve pool and hope for some good numbers. All right, not bad. We got 2 5s, a 3, and a 1. We're going to want to use those really quick as the railway station currently has an agent. For Imre's second action, I'm going to have him move down to City Hall because I want to get to a point where I can use my 2 action points to add a minion from the reserve to any district I choose. If I use that in tandem with the ability that Mila has at a certain point, I can start to get that asylum under control. Also, I want to make my way slowly towards the cathedral, which is next, to take that guy out so we can actually get our abilities back. So we are at the end of the night phase now. We have this card that says Risky Treatment. We talked about it earlier. It says at the end of each night phase, discard 1 minion from the asylum. Then if there are more minions than agents, discard this card and increase the Veil by 1. Well, that's not going to happen, but the minion is going to be discarded, which is unfortunate because we're really going to be working hard to try to convert, like I said before, with Mila and trying to throw minions in there with Imre. It's honestly very tough to determine whether that's a good focus or whether we should just start using our dice to take out as many of them as possible, but my dice rolls haven't been all that great and we don't have a good hold on Railway Station right now. The first player marker is going to move over to Imre. Now time for the daytime effects. The railway station has an agent in it, no minions. So we're going to take a hit to the dice. So this is going to drop one of the highest die to a 3, which is unfortunate. The asylum actually has a trigger as well. It says if there are more agents than minions in this district, move one minion from any district to the asylum. So basically the only minion I have left is at the museum, and this minion is going to move to the asylum now. That actually could be a good thing. As before, we can't use our relics or abilities just yet. And now we shall see what the event deck has for us. This one is called New Faces. So it looks like the police department is going to be getting a guaranteed agent, which is going to put that area at 3, which is also going to be very, very sketchy for us to go to. And secondly, we have to place one more agent, but we have now run out of agents to place. So that is going to now hit our veil tracker as 1 off of it. So we'll do that at the end when we resolve the rest. Down below it says New Faces, add 1 agent, oh no, into the nightclub along with this card. So that's 2 hits to the veil tracker right there. Underneath of that, vampires can't use the nightclub ability. Thankfully I just used it actually with Mila already. At the end of any night phase, if there are more minions than agents in the nightclub, discard this card and increase the veil tracker by 1. All right, so we've fully resolved this event card. This is another one that goes into play until it's discarded through the ability on the card itself, but we know we have to take 2 hits to the veil tracker right now, so let's update that. 2 hits to the veil tracker is going to knock us back down to that nasty second half. So I've changed my mind about the asylum situation. That is just getting completely out of control. So what I'm going to do is to stop the dice from being depleted from my rolls. That's really hurting us to be able to make an impact against the agents. So I'm going to actually go ahead and spend 2 action points to add a minion from the reserve to any district, and I can also increase the veil tracker. So I'm going to take a new minion, I'm going to place it at the railway station to then kind of break even there, so I'm no longer being toyed with my dice reserve. I also, as I mentioned, going to bump that veil tracker up 1. So what you can see with this game is as you're trying to strategically get to a point of enough kills, you're also mitigating so much other stuff going on. So it's not just as simple as it looked at the beginning of running around and just killing agents without any kind of downside. The veil tracker itself is constantly shifting and swinging quite wildly now at the end of the game, and really if you're not prepared to take those swings, you're gonna lose. I definitely want to go ahead and take out the minion at the nightclub, because then I can actually gain one of the veil tracker ups right here from New Faces. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to reveal this particular individual or agent, and I'm going to go ahead and attack that agent. So I'm going to go ahead and actually use the 5 that I have, and I'm tempted actually to convert this one. No, I'll keep my blood tokens for another conversion later on. I'm going to attack this one using the 5 dice to make sure that I kill it without losing any blood tokens whatsoever. So this agent has been killed off, and I do get to bump up the track for Mila. So now Mila is moving on to relic number 2, kill count 5, so she can hold 2 relics if we can ever clear up the museum. And of course, risky treatment here says at the end of each night phase, discard 1 minion from the asylum. So you can see why I kind of ran away from dealing with this one, because it's really a cycle. These 2 things triggering are absolutely nasty. One has you pulling a minion. Basically this one is going to have you pulling minions to the asylum, and then the risky treatment is literally killing them. So it's like pulling all of your best resources away from areas where you're trying to get benefits and then wiping them out on you. So we're going to lose this minion right here, and again we don't have enough minions to outweigh the agents there, so this risky treatment just continues to go on at the asylum. Now at the nightclub, the New Faces card we just went ahead and dealt with Mila. This one's going to trigger now. We're at the end of the night phase. If there are more minions than agents in the nightclub, discard this card. Rats. So I can't actually up this one. I thought it was by having no minion or no agents there. It's actually by having more minions. So I'm going to need to actually get a minion to this location. So unfortunately, I can't actually gain the benefit of this one right now. Going into the next phase, Mila is going to be the first player, and you can see what the blood tokens she has. I really want to focus on getting her into an area where she can start flipping some of those agents. So this is a perfect example of a situation where when resolving day effects, you're going to want to make sure you choose which day effect is actually going to trigger first, because if we choose the asylum, it's actually going to go ahead and have 1 minion from any district get basically pulled pulled to the asylum. So if we do that right now, this minion moves from the railway station to the asylum, and I don't gain the benefit of basically stopping this agent that's here from messing around with our dice. So by activating this one first, which basically is nothing because I choose to activate it, it's basically equal, then I don't have to worry about anything nasty happening. Next, I'm going to choose to activate the asylum, and then this thing is going to get pulled over to the asylum like that. That's it. Looking through the rest, the cathedral still has an agent on it, so we still can't use our relics nor our abilities, and everything else doesn't have any other effect. Thankfully, we're still on the left-hand side of the Veil Tracker, so things aren't so grim just yet, but it's getting pretty sketchy because look at that, we're moving into stage number 3, and things, well, I can tell you already, things are feeling pretty tight. This event is called Absolution, so we're going to have an agent, which I have one in the reserve right now, guaranteed to go into City Park. There's nobody else in there, so there's no hit to the Veil Tracker, thankfully. The other spots are the nightclub or the radio station. I'm definitely going to, well, I don't have a choice. I have no more agents left, so I'm going to have to take a hit to the Veil Tracker once we finish resolving. So what does Absolution do? Add one agent into the cathedral. So that's 2 hits right there. That's not good. At the end of each night phase, if there are more minions than agents in the cathedral, discard this card and increase the Veil Tracker by 1. Otherwise, choose any vampire with at least 1 kill and decrease it by 1. That is terrible. Uh-oh, we're getting down to the very, very end here. As you can see, the Veil Tracker starting to move further down than it ever has before. We're really going to need to work on making sure we can keep that thing up to 4 or 5 to handle these big hits, or we need to just start killing tons of agents and just jump into piles of them, which could also be very, very dangerous for our health. As you can see, the event card Absolution's been added to the cathedral, and now that's going to trigger at the end of each night phase, as well as the nightclubs and the asylums triggers. So what I'm really going to work on right now with Mila is trying to get the Veil Tracker up as much as I can. I really want to spend the blood tokens, as I mentioned multiple times, on her abilities, but I still can't because the cathedral still has an agent there that's stopping me during the nighttime, which is really frustrating because I really want to use all those blood tokens I got, but I can't use them. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and spend 2 actions, is what it calls, to recruit a minion, and it's going to actually add 1 to the Veil. This is an action right off her player board, so it costs 2 actions to recruit a minion to my space. So I'll go ahead, we'll grab a minion, we'll place it there, and this is going to allow me to trigger this, plus the fact that I get to increase the Veil Tracker for recruiting a minion, and then at the end of the night phase, new phases will trigger and I'll get an additional increase to the Veil Tracker. So first off, I get the 1 for actually recruiting a minion, so that's a good thing. We'll bump that up to 3. And I'm going to have Imre actually move to the cathedral to finally get rid of this guy. So he's going to walk in here, he's going to go ahead and expose the agent that's in here so that next turn he can actually take this individual out, plus I get to go ahead here and deal with this Absolution. All right, so we're at the end of another night phase. I don't think I'm progressing the way I really want to, but we're gonna have to resolve all the end of night phase cards we have here. So this one says at the end of each night phase, discard a minion. And yes, we have to have more minions than there are agents. We don't have that, so risky treatment is continuing onwards. We have a nice success over here with new faces because we do have more minions than we do agents, so we can discard this card and increase the Veil Tracker by 1. This is barely going to keep us above where we want to be. And now Absolution is going to hit us, unfortunately. So Absolution here says, essentially, at the end of each night phase, if there are more minions than agents, then we get to discard this card and gain an increase to the Veil Tracker. Otherwise, which is what we're going to be falling into, the otherwise portion, choose any vampire with at least 1 kill and decrease it by 1. Any vampire. I'm going to choose to decrease it off of Mila because Mila is currently at a 5, and by decreasing her down to a 4, she still has the Wild Hunt, and we're only just losing the fact she can hold 2 relics, which is not a big deal. If I was to get rid of that off Imre, he would actually lose the ability to do Wild Hunt, which I kind of want to keep him there at. So right now, both of our characters, vampires-wise, have 4 kills apiece. And we'll move the first player token over for this next round to Imre, and we're going to stop right here. That's right, I'm going to stop right on the cliffhanger of what looks to be my impending doom, because we have 5 more cards, as we know, when we set up this deck, being that we're playing on medium difficulty, and you can see how difficult medium even is. I got a funny feeling I'm not going to be able to survive this unless I can somehow chop through a whole bunch of agents really, really quickly. So my goal, hopefully going into the next video, is to hopefully clear up the cathedral, open up Mila's ability to start converting agents into minions, and then try to just take out a bunch of them in order to get our kill counts up as fast as humanly possible. And that's the toughest thing, is that in order to get the kill count up, you can't just convert them. When you convert, like you do with Mila, where you convert and replace one exposed agent in your district with a minion, it's not a kill. It doesn't count as a kill. So because of that, it's slowing me down from getting to the end of my kill tracker, which I want to get to. But it is helping me mitigate the insanity of the agents on the board. But time is running out. And time is another endgame trigger that's going to get me. So either way, I think I'm in a tight spot here. If there's anything you think that I should do, let me know in the comments below. With the game state where it currently is at, we're moving into stage 3. We know there's only 5 cards left in the game, time-wise. There's only 5 more rounds to go. Not a lot of time to try to accumulate 5 kills per character. That is going to be extremely hard to do, and it's what we need to do in order to win, but there's lots of agents on the board to kill. So really, if we can kind of ramp that up and start being able to take a bunch of agents down, we might have a shot. But I could be stuck into a corner that I can't get out of. It's kind of tough to tell at this point. But if you have a strategy in mind as to what I should do going into the next round, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think I should do. I will play it to the best of my ability here, and we'll see what happens. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully this helps you make an informed decision on the upcoming Kickstarter. And as always, keep on rolling solo.